Hey, I'm Bill DeVille, and I'm here with Colin Meloy of the Decemberists. So nice to see you, Colin.
Nice to see you.
How's everything?
Everything's great. I mean, I think we're about 3 weeks into the first tour on the record, and it's been exciting. Cool.
Yeah. And it's been, let's see, you were here last in, what was it, 22?
Yeah.
Survey, I think it was.
Yeah, I think I think that was. We did, our twice postponed kind of 20th anniversary tour.
Yeah.
Finally made it out here.
Well, it's nice to have you here.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I met you was back in 2005 at the Austin City Limits Music Festival. And the reason I remember so well is because, this was the fall of hot. It's always hot there, but not usually in October. It was like 105, 108, 109 degrees over the 3-day festival. And everybody's wearing, scarves over their faces because of the dust.
Right.
Do you have a recollection of that?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I remember being on the bus, thankfully, looking out at all the people and just feeling like, oh my God, I can't imagine being out in that. It's kind of how I feel about a lot of festivals. But it being so hot, I do remember drawing a tattoo on Jenny's arm in Sharpie with 104 degrees and a thermometer that was exploding. I think that was that festival.
Did that work?
I think it was just trying to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, because the idea of getting out there and playing a rock show and that temperature it's tough.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a new album. It's due, what is it, the 14th, I believe it is, of June?
June 14th.
Yeah. Tell us about the album. What's different this time out?
Well, I mean, it's our first proper double album and our longest record. It's our first record in 6 years.
Why the long gap? Well, besides the fact that there was a
there was a global pandemic.
that
kind of slowed things down. I was working on a book at the time when COVID hit, and I finished that, and then just felt generally, like kind of hibernating. Yeah. And I think my creative whims are kind of drawn to other projects, and it really wasn't until, February of last year that I felt like, okay, I feel like there's enough material. I think we should probably try making a record.
Yeah. I saw you have a 19-minute epic on the album.
Yeah.
Is it hard for a full band to learn a song that long?
No. I mean, we have experience doing that. We've done that a few times before. Not 19. That's our
Is that your
longest?
Yeah.
Though,
you passed Iron Butterfly, I think, with that one.
The Tane comes close. The Tane is 18.
Yeah.
And the Island, and then the Hazards of Love was meant to be basically one long track. I mean, everything flows into the next. And we learned that to tour that on. So I think everybody's sort of old hands, at that kind of thing.
Yeah. I saw you have a couple of special guests. You have Mike Mills, Mike, the longtime bassist in REM. How did you get him involved in the album? Well,
it happened. He was in town. He was in town playing with the Baseball Project, one of his bands, with Scott McCoy and Pete Buck. And their last night on tour was in Portland. And Tucker Martine, our producer, suggested it. It was like he knew he was in town. It was like, why don't we give him a call and see if he'll come in? And I've met Mike on a few occasions, actually, played with him when, done different benefits and things with Peter. And so we just called him and saw if he wanted to come in. And I thought that there's no way, it's the last night of a tour. He's flying out that day. But he was game. He changed his flight, came in probably really hungover, and totally banged out this great part, singing and playing piano.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. And then I saw you had James Mercer. I suppose that's pretty easy to get him because he's a Portland guy too.
Well, yeah, he's a Portland guy, and we're friends. But yeah, it's another one of those situations where Tucker and I were just in the studio wanting kind of a distinctive voice on this one part and trying to think of who could be somebody to nail it. And, James's name came up. And I texted him, and he was in town, and he came in the next day and banged it out.
He's on Burial Ground, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about the song.
That is a song that actually has its germ. It started out as a dream. It was a dream song, which happens occasionally, where you'll be in a dream and you'll be performing or something. And this song, you'll be performing a song, and occasionally you can remember the song when you wake up, and you can actually kind of chart it out, and as long as you get to it quickly. And it's always kind of a curiosity. More often than not, it's like nonsense and doesn't really work. But for whatever reason, Burial Ground, that hook made sense outside of my dream world. And so I just kind of kept building it out from there.
It works really well. It sounds awesome on the radio. It's been a big track for us.
Oh, good.
Another thing that you and I have in common, besides the fact that we were both at Austin City Limits in 2005, is we were both in the film Color Me Impressed.
Oh,
the documentary about the Replacements.
Oh, you were in that, all right.
Yeah. So what is it about the Replacements in you?
Well, I mean, I think I learned a lot from I was introduced to the Replacements at a relatively young age. I think I was in 6th or 7th grade. And my uncle, who was, the youngest brother of my sister, was at school at University of Oregon.
So he wasn't all that much older. He was like the cool uncle.
He was the cool uncle.
Yeah.
And he was the uncle that busted out the guitar during family gatherings.
Sure.
And was really hip to like what was happening on college radio in the 80s. And he would send my sister and I little mixtapes at Christmas. And on one of them, there was the Replacements, I Will Dare, Husker Du, Hardly Getting Over It, a Smith song, and an REM song. And I mean, those 4 tracks just sort of instantly blew open my mind about what music was, what it could be. We got really into the Replacements. I feel like there was something about how much they were just such kind of miscreants, and they were so, their behavior and the way that they approached their songs, and even though their songs were gorgeous, and Paul was writing these really beautiful, really important lyrically, really deep and heavy songs, but there was also this side to them where, the first track on Hootenanny, they all just switch instruments and played a song,
Yeah.
And that's the lead track. I just feel like there's kind of a bravery there in that kind of absurdity and playfulness that I think has informed not only my songwriting, but the way I approach performance and recording and everything.
Did you ever get a chance to see them?
I never did. I saw Paul Westerberg play.
One of those solo shows in the early 2000s, maybe?
Yeah, well, he did like a tour of record stores, and I saw him at a record store date. But that's it. I didn't get a chance to see them when they reformed.
Yeah, well, they were pretty great. I was lucky enough to see them in both Chicago and here.
Oh, cool.
And it was a real treat to see them. You also wrote a book, one of those, what was it, 33 and a third series?
Yeah.
How did you get involved in that?
I think I just got asked by the guy who was putting them together if there was a record that I felt like I could write about. And that was one, Let It Be, sort of a formative record. It hadn't been written about yet, and so I took it.
Do you got a favorite Replacement song?
It might be Nowhere Is My Home.
That's a good one.
Which is off the Boink EP, but then they've just recently remixed it and remastered it for that new Tim reissue. And it's kind of a deep cut, but it's one when I was a kid I just loved.
Yeah. I'm going to go with I Will Dare or Within Your Reach. Depends on the day.
Within Your Reach is great. Can't Hardly Wait.
So earlier on, back in, let's see, 2005, you released an album called Colin Meloy Sings Morrissey. You had a Sings Shirley Collins, a Sings Live, a Sings Sam Cooke, a Sings The Kinks. Are you going to do another one of these? I know it's been a while since you have, but is that something you'd entertain doing again? Or
I think I would do it if those were kind of made explicitly for solo tour, at least tours that I would go on. and to have some kind of special recording that would be available at the shows. That's kind of how those started. And so I don't think I would make another one unless I was going on the road again.
Yeah.
But we did just recently collect all 4 of them and put them on vinyl for the first time.
Well, there you go. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So the Decemberists, I was just looking at the dates. Looks like you've been a band for almost 25 years. You're coming up on 25.
Yeah.
What's the key to have a band and largely intact for 25 years?
Oh, gosh.
And you survived a pandemic.
Yeah. I think one of the saving graces is I think we were all a little bit older when we started, late 20s, early 30s. I was when the band as it is today, even though we've had some member changes, but what I think of like the definitive Decemberists lineup really didn't come about until 2001. And I was in my late 20s, and I think Jenny and Nate, were 30. And I think just being adults and being more mature and also having had experience playing in other bands was really helpful. And the fact that we got along, I also think taking lots of breaks, allowing to
well, you all have your own thing going on outside
to pursue
of the
other things
yeah.
is really important too.
Yeah. And how did you get through the pandemic as a band?
Well,
just kind of stepped away.
We just stepped away. I mean, it was just kind of happened that it fell when we were naturally going to be the tour was going to happen, our 20th anniversary tour was going to happen, and that certainly got derailed or put off for a couple of years. But that wasn't anything that was going to like derail our career or anything like that. So I think everybody just kind of stayed put. We did a couple streaming shows, which was a lot of fun.
I caught some of those. That was about the only thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, as an artist, as a singer, songwriter, and author, what's a person like you's view on artificial intelligence, on AI?
Well, I think it's potentially going to be a really great tool.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's made me think a lot about our own processes, of creative process.
You could have it write a song for you and then just switch the words around a little bit.
I don't think I would do that. You could use it as a tool to kind of throw some ideas, but in a certain sense, we are all kind of large learning models.
Yeah.
And that my process of writing songs, where you're kind of guessing at each turn, what is the next chord, what is the next word, what is the next chapter in the story, is not that different from what an LLM or an AI model does.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fascinating. But I think that there is something that will be critically missing, I think, in music that is created by AI, even if they get it to a point where it can make hooky choruses and verses that work.
Make this sound like the Ramones.
Well, yeah, even if they get to that point, I think now even AI created music feels very soulless, but even if they get to the point where it's like, oh, this sounds like it's hooky and it's catchy, I think it's sort of like there will still be something there. It's like those things that you see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that's like somebody telling you like you're okay and you're going to make it through today. These like kind of banal therapeutic statements that are they still don't mean anything. I feel like when I see them, I'm like, that doesn't. Sure, thanks for the sentiment, but it was created by somebody to very generally speak to a huge population. I think AI is the same way.
Kind of is.
If there's not something in that feels like it's speaking, that's coming from someone's direct experience, a person, a human, then I think it can't work.
Yeah, I agree with you. What was the last album that you listened to start to finish? There's a question for you.
Carabeth Sadolino, and she has a new record called Little Green. And I heard a song on some mixtape, and thought it was great, and the record just came out. I walked around Toronto listening to it, certainly start to finish, and yeah, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's Colin Meloy of The Decemberists. The new album is out on the 14th of June called As It Ever Was, So It Will Begin. What about
So It Will Be Again.
I got it wrong. Okay. There you go. Thanks for correcting me.
Yeah.
Now, as an author, do you have anything that you've been working on writing-wise of late? Or?
Yeah, I'm actually working on my first novel for grown-ups, for adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been doing children's books.
Yeah, mostly middle grade novels, like middle reader kind of. And that's been a great place for me. It's, I love writing for that age. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this will be my first time writing for grown-ups.
Well, congratulations on the new album on the way, and so nice chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for having me.
Mm-hmm.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.